Hello and welcome to the brand new Tree Amigos podcast with myself, Matt Davey, Connor Godfray, and Ryan Holloway. Today's podcast is all about football, more specifically VAR. So let me introduce you to Ryan and Connor, who kick things off.
Well, how do we think it's worked in the Premier League so far?
I think it's worked well. I think it's been perfect. Not perfect, okay. I think everyone doesn't have a problem with VAR. I think what a lot of pundits have brought up recently is the problem isn't with VAR. People don't disagree with VAR. People disagree with human error and the rules. The rules need changing. It's true though, isn't it? VAR hasn't really made any mistakes. It's been the rules that have been the mistake, like handballs. VAR can't change the rules. It has to go in line with the rules, and not everyone agrees with the current rules. I think that's the problem with it. Personally.
I think that's the bit. Is it's supposed to be a clear and obvious error, but if there's an error, that's what they're changing, and so the rule currently doesn't state what they're actually doing. So that's where the issue comes into it. But it's again, I think the fact of too many people's different opinions on it.
It's a fair point. I think
in terms of in game.
Yeah, I think the other issue with it is because, I mean, this kind of comes from the fact that we haven't had it that long. I mean, the Bundesliga's had it for like 2 or 3 seasons. I think the main issue is the time. I think the argument that it ruins atmospheres because people don't know if to celebrate a goal or not, I think it's kind of invalid. I think if we didn't have it would be worse. And I think actually having it goals not count or like get ruled out, then I actually think it makes it a bit more exciting. So I disagree with that. But I think the timing, I think that's the thing that everyone can agree on is too long. I think it takes 5 minutes to come to a decision. I think that's too long. And I think it defies the point of VAR should be if it's a clear and obvious error. And if it takes 5 minutes in 25 slow motion, different camera angles to decide, it's not clear and obvious for me.
Yeah. I think, again, you're issue there is even the Bundesliga sometimes can be a bit slow. And sometimes I think, that's just sometimes the way it is with decisions that you have to check. I don't agree with, I don't disagree with them taking that time to check if that person's slightly offside, like if he's offside, he's offside. As long as it's like continuous and it's the same for every team, then, when it happens for you, it's good. And when it happens against you, you don't really like it. But it's that bit. It's those ones where you can't draw a line. It's those the Bundesliga, I think, is probably the league that has the best VAR usage. But they do it a bit differently to how we do it. They don't have a team in a room that checks it and does it all themselves. They use the ref, which I still think is the best option, because currently I think we just take away the power of the ref. If we have 5 other referees in, was it Stockley Park? If they are viewing it and telling the ref, they don't want to tell that ref that he's wrong, especially when it's not top tier referees. It can be like championship referees that are in that room. Are they going to go and tell whoever it is, Michael Oliver, that he's made the wrong decision? I think they'll feel like they can't do that. And they're all going to have different opinions. Every pundit has a different opinion on a handball or an offside or whatever. They're all going to have different opinions. Us three, I know when we tried it, we have different opinions on certain goals. How can that, you have to get a people of 5 to agree on it first in a room to then tell the ref. And I think that's, again, where the time takes. If they say to the ref, maybe view it.
Yeah, I think the
ref makes the decision still.
Yeah, the monitor has to be used more by the side. I think if a team of 5 people can't decide it, I just don't really see the point. It's an interesting point, actually, and I want to get onto a bit more the rules. I mean, we'll come back to VAR in general in a second. What I'm interested in is your guys' opinions on, so the offside rule. I think the offside rule is good. I think it should be, even if you're a millimetre offside, you're offside. Because I think when there's been calls to change it to give the advantage to the attacker, I don't think that makes sense. I think attackers are usually quicker than defenders anyway, so I don't really think they need it. And I think it's like, well, how much do you give? I think it should be, if you're offside, you're offside.
Yeah, I agree.
That's kind of clean cut-ish. There's a few people that I think that's how it should be. Handball's a more interesting one though, because there's a lot of high profile cases of it. In the Champions League final, you think that was one of the most important decisions that completely changed the game. And in the semi-final, PSG versus Man United, it talks about that. Davey, what do you think about the handball rule? Do you think it should be changed?
I don't know. Maybe we just need to get used to it. It's a weird one. I understand people saying if it hits the arm, it's a handball because at least that makes it clear that yeah. But then again, in the heat of the moment, certain referees, you don't know. It's all down to opinion, really, isn't it? Maybe we just need to get used to it. But more broadly on VAR, I was for it, and after seeing it for most of this season, I'm against it now. I think I'd personally scrap it. Even like how you were saying earlier.
Wow.
I mean, because technically, like you say, it's not been wrong, and it's the rules that perhaps need changing. And yes, it takes a lot of time between like decisions, making the decision, but I wouldn't have it now. I sort of it takes away something.
I agree, but I think similar to people that were opposed to goal line technology, we wouldn't go without that now. I think once we're used to it, it'll be a case of it's just part of football. I think
the goal line
it's all very well
saying,
but famously, in my opinion, deliberately or unintentionally, I don't know, big teams got decisions. That's always been the way throughout the Premier League. Maybe in other leagues, I don't know. But I think if we didn't have VAR and these things were happening, decisions were wrong, there would be even more anger that hadn't got introduced sooner. I think big decisions usually go towards the bigger teams. Why that is, I don't know. I'm not going to accuse anyone of anything. Bribery and FIFA. But I think if there wasn't VAR, we would see so many wrong decisions, sometimes accidentally, sometimes probably not accidentally. And I think and things like diving as well, it's really difficult to tell if something's a dive or not in real time. I think a decision like that, considering how much money's in the Premier League, you think staying in the Premier League, you're guaranteed like £200 million. You want it to be right. If you go down because of a wrong decision, like I think that's, if one team goes down because of a wrong decision, I think that's all you need to justify VAR. If one decision's wrong that cost a club millions of pounds.
Yeah,
go on.
But it's that bit again. Like, has VAR really like stepped up this season to overrule the referees? And like comparing it to the Bundesliga, it really hasn't. That they did in the start, I think, when we sort of changed some of the goals, like at the start of the season. But in 90 games, it is overturned no penalties. It is overseen no red cards. It's only overturned 19 decisions in 90 games. We can both agree there's red cards that VAR should have got, and there's both pens for handball. Like the Saints Tottenham game, there was one there with Vertonghen. They didn't even look at it. Like if it hits the arm, this is the bit it needs refining so that there's a clear rule for it.
I think sorry to cut you off. I think the rule of handball is the problem. I think the rules are the problem, not the actual VAR. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, I don't think it can be clear and obvious anymore. I think it has to be. It's just what it is. Like if they're offside, they're offside. As long as you don't spend 15 minutes trying to look at it, like if it's a 2-minute thing, and the lines can be drawn for the on-field ref, I think that's your decision done. And I don't think it takes away from the atmosphere. Not by watching games that I've seen when it's made a decision, they still celebrate. And I think it adds something different to it, something that we've probably not, or we haven't experienced before. And so I haven't been at a game where it's actually affected it personally, but watching it, it doesn't seem like the crowd still takes something from it. I still think it just adds something else.
I think it'd be helpful if you could see on the big screen as well what exactly was going on, or maybe hear the conversation at Stockley Park. Because in a minute you just get VAR check, whatever it is, and you could be stood there for 5 minutes and you still have no idea what's going on.
Do you think that, just 2 points, do you think the ref should be mic'd up? Because I think so. And so certain stadiums don't have big screens. I think Old Trafford and Anfield,
yeah.
Anfield.
Yeah, Anfield. They don't have big screens. So even if it was made so they could see it, should they be forced to get big screens? Like, what do you think?
Yeah, maybe. Why not? They can afford it.
True, but they don't want one because it ruins their stadium. Should they be forced to have one? I don't know. But going back to the refs, what do you think about the refs being mic'd? Same with Stockley Park.
I think that's interesting. I saw something on like Facebook of the Australian League ref that had a mic in the game, and it's quite interesting, like to see how the ref talks. I think it also there's been like obviously like bits where the refs have apparently said things to players that would all be avoided if they had mic'd, even if it wasn't live to the stadium, obviously. Like, but if it was still being recorded, it's just like a black box type thing. It's there for security of what refs have said, what they've talked about with players.
Like crashes the plane.
Well, use it right. Yeah, there we go.
No, I agree. I think miking up the refs would really help a lot. Even like you say, even if it doesn't go out live, I think you're going to stop players abusing the referee, which I think isn't quite as much as a problem as it was. Because I think there's rules now that you can't surround a referee. I think they're good because I think football is such an influential sport, especially on younger kids. I think they shouldn't be allowed to bully referees into a decision that should be stopped. And I think the same with language as well. I think if you stop players swearing at referees, you cut down on swearing in general. I think footballers especially are such huge role models. I think they should have more responsibility in the way they use that thing. I think if you had that, they wouldn't swear at the referee. They probably might not swear as much. I think spitting as well. I think spitting's a huge problem in football.
Yeah, I don't think football. I don't get it.
They shouldn't be allowed to spit. I think it's such a bad. I think if you stop footballers spitting, I think just the amount of people that just spit in general, I think would go down. But I guess that's a discussion for another time. But I think VAR definitely does need to change. I don't think anyone can argue with that. It has been too slow. But I think people actually don't really have a problem with VAR. I think people have a problem with the rules. I think the handball, the offside rule. And I think until that changes, VAR will be used as a scapegoat for the problems, personally.
Do you think they will, like the FA and other leagues, do you think they'll make changes to the laws, like going ahead?
It's difficult to say, isn't it? It depends. What it might come down to is who has benefited the most from these rules. And I genuinely think if some of the bigger clubs like not winning or losing because of these rules and the way they are, they'll be changed. But I think if clubs like Man United, Arsenal, PSG, Real Madrid, blah, 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 if they're benefiting from the rules, no one will pipe up. But I think if they're the ones that are not doing well from them, they'll all band together and they'll get their own way. I think it's as simple as that, really. And it shouldn't be as simple as that.
Are the rules the same in the other top leagues?
Well, they're not, are they? This is another problem as well, is the FIFA rules are different to the UEFA rules, are different from the Premier League rules. I think that needs to stop as well, because I think if you're playing in the Premier League week in, week out, and the ball touches your hand, it's accidental, wouldn't be a penalty. But if you did that in the Champions League, it is a penalty. I think that's ridiculous. I think there should be a clear set of rules from FIFA. And I think if part of your game is using your body to protect, if you're a defender like, I don't know, like Gary Cahill or someone like that, you're throwing yourself in front of the ball. If it hits your arm in the Premier League, it's accidental. It's not a penalty. But if that happens in the Champions, not that Palace will ever get to the Champions League, but if they ever did, it would though. It would be a penalty. And I think that's ridiculous. Someone needs to look at that and change it. I just think that's crazy. That it should be the same for every league and every major competition.
That's the thing. The VAR is used differently in different leagues. Like, I don't know like other leagues, but the Bundesliga especially, I think is the one that has tapped into it the most. It's been obviously been using it the longest, so it's had that sort of time to get used to it, which I think is still the issue in the Premier League. Is this is still its first season? Like, we're still trying to come used to it. It's now partly into the cups as well. it's just that incubation time. Like, we just need to fine tune it. This is probably a season where these conversations are happening across the board with how they improve it, what clubs like, what they don't like. Definitely should be a conversation, I think, especially as we're all off at the minute. Why not use these times of the minute to understand what they like and don't like?
Interesting point, actually. While everyone's off, why don't they change it? Or at least look at it?
They should be looking at it. Like, I think the clubs should definitely be talking between themselves, if not anything, can like go to, obviously, like the boards must have a decision on it. Obviously, they get told about how it's going to work, but it doesn't exactly always play out like that, as we've seen in the league. Games haven't followed the same, and different refs use it differently. They were all told then that they should be using the on-field like screen to look at red cards, and the next game they don't even look at it when there was a red card. And it literally needs fine-tuning and becoming very dumbed down of how they do it. It's good that they have, if the screens are there, that they have and say there's a VAR check, because they didn't use that at first. But again, do they increase that? Do they show it? Do they show you that that was offside by that much? Do they, like, because there was the game, wasn't there, with when the ref had no clue why the goal didn't stand. I think it was against Palace, actually.
Was it a United game? No, maybe not. I know what you mean. It was a Wolverhampton game. Do you remember?
Yes,
because there's a picture of Connor Cody running towards him and saying, "Why was that ruled off?" And the ref just, I don't know.
Mike Dean was like, "I have no idea." He should know. Like, he should be the one, unless it's an offside and they've drawn the lines, because he can't do it. Like, he can't see it when it's that close. He should be the one making a decision. Otherwise, you just take your power away from that ref. Like, they'll have so much little power. Like, at the minute, they've got so much more power where they can send off managers and things like that. When they should be able to, like, if they make a decision, they should be able to be questioned on it. A manager should be asked them why they've done that or why they've not done it a different way. And I think they get protection that way. But then you're taking the power away from them again by going, if I could give this pen and then VAR could go, no, it's not. And you go, okay, there you go. It's not down to me. I did what I thought. Whereas if he has to make the decision anyway by going off if he's not sure, he still has the control of the game.
Yeah, you raised a good point before, actually, with like the FA Cup. Do you think they're right to use it in the FA Cup? Because if you're the home side and your Premier League team, it was in use. But for all the Championship, League One, League Two, non-league teams, if they were the home side, it wasn't in use. So do you think it was fair that some games would have it and not others? Or do you think they should have found a way where they all had it, or none of them used it, so it's consistent across the board?
It's annoying, isn't it? Like, they have that with goal line as well, don't they? Because some clubs, obviously lower clubs, don't have it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like, it's really hard to. It would be nice to have it consistent, I think, but I don't know what the reason was for it. To be fair, does anyone?
Just because the lower teams just either can't, because to have it, you need to have cameras everywhere. You need to have pitch side monitor. You have a fully VAR trained referee. Obviously, like Stockley Park. I just think as well, because there's so many games going on at the same time, it does, like, logistically doesn't make sense. But I don't think it should be used in the FA Cup. I think every team should be equal in that sense. And I think as well, I think the FA Cup is such a sacred and pure thing. Until every team can have it, no one should have it. Whereas in the FA Cup, I know it sounds bad, but the FA Cup doesn't really matter. Like, not to the FA or not. No, but not UEFA and the Premier League and the FA don't really care about the FA Cup. All it is a platform for smaller clubs to get, more money. And I think if you're the Premier League, I think you don't really care about it, not really. So, and the Premier League is the elite competition, so I think Premier League should have it. But I think the FA Cup, like, you can all, like, say whatever. But I think I asked Matt the other day, or might have been both of you, would you rather win the FA Cup and go down, or stay in the division and not win it? Most people, I'd rather win the FA Cup and go down.
I'd rather win the FA Cup, yeah.
But I think some people, maybe most, would rather stay in the Premier League, which I think says it all.
Because you would gain more out of staying there. just by
Exactly.
the club. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm of the opinion it shouldn't be used in the FA Cup until every team has it to make it equal. But at the same time,
What about when it
well,
gets to like quarters?
no, I don't think at all. I think that's part of the magic of the FA Cup. I don't think because not every team is going to get it, regardless of. There's just not enough money in League One and League Two to justify having training referees, pitch side monitor, the cameras, and you think sometimes you think in the football league there's what is it 92 teams in the football league?
Yeah, something like that.
You say half of them are playing at once. That's about 30 matches. Say 30 matches at a Saturday 3 p.m. kickoff. How on earth are you going to get 30 VAR trained referees, 30 fourth officials that are training VAR, 30 teams of 4 people who are in a room dedicated to that match in case there's more than one decision at once? You need so many cameras. There's just not enough money in League One and League Two to make that happen. So I think for that reason, FA Cup shouldn't have it.
Yeah, point. I agree.
It's a very fair point.
Thank you.
It's used in the Carabao Cup as well, isn't it?
Yes, but no one really cares about the Carabao Cup, so it doesn't really matter.
Until we nearly won it.
Yeah, I would have cared more if we won it. I'll say that. It'd be a competition if we won it, but we didn't, so never mind.
A 2-1 split of keeping VAR to getting rid of it.
Yeah, I just I don't know. I just you're both right in the sense that Connor, when you said it's ultimately made the right decisions, yes, it has. Do the rules need changing? Yes. I don't know. It's a bit too crickety for me. Not anything against cricket. I don't mind cricket, but I don't know. I just think maybe I just like the flow of the game. And if it's getting broken up because of VAR and you're not sure for 5 minutes and you can't see what's going on the screen, and then a decision's made, whether it's gone for or against you, and you're not quite sure why. It's just, I don't know. I was all for it, and having seen it for most of this season, what we've been able to see so far, it'd be interesting to see actually if the clubs were to vote on it, if they'd be all for it and say, ultimately it's the right decision. I mean, you've had some managers come out and say, like the Wolves manager Nuno, for example, said no, it's not football. So it'd be interesting to see if opinions have changed, certainly from the start of the season. When we've not had it to now, was it worth it? I think it's still pretty split, to be honest.
I think the issue there is you'd be left behind, wouldn't we? Like the Champions League's not going to get rid of it. They've already introduced it. Europa League will have it. If Wolves get in the Europa League, if we get rid of it in the league, they're still going to have to get rid of it. They still have to use it in the Europa League. Should they get there next season with whatever's happening? It's going to be used elsewhere. The Bundesliga's adapting it every season and making it a little bit better and better. La Liga is going to be using it. Calcio is going to be using it. We'll be the only league, if we get rid of it, to probably have to reintroduce it in the future, just when we fine tune it. We're going to be left behind potentially by clubs top clubs to a Palace. It probably won't make no difference if the league doesn't have it. They're not going to have any competitions that are going to use it. But for a top club in other competitions, they're going to have to use it. So they're going to have to get used to it one way. Again, admittedly, it's still different in the Champions League to it is in the Premier League, but it's a little bit similar by how they use it.
To be fair, I've just Googled which leagues are using VAR, and to be honest, it's virtually everyone now. Even sort of to us unknown leagues, really. So yeah, maybe your point of getting left behind is fair. More leagues are using it than I would have thought, certainly.
Yeah, I agree with Ryan. I think if we don't use it, I think if we don't have VAR and everyone else does, I think our league becomes less desirable. I don't think people are going to come to England thinking, oh, we can go there and get away with stuff. I think it's just we'll be left behind, and I think we're going to start to lose that iconic Premier League status if we don't introduce it. Improve it. But at the same time, it does need work. I don't think anyone can deny that. Even if you're for or against it, it definitely needs a lot of work. But I think we can't get rid of it now. I think in 3 seasons' time, we'll all be like, oh, isn't VAR great? But we're just going to have to weather that storm.
I think it hasn't maybe overturned enough, like, to make the decisions that are probably correct. Like, I think it has made some mistakes even with VAR, some that they've not viewed and some that they've not looked at. Again, the bits with like the offsides take time naturally, because you've got to go for that those 2 millimeters that person's knee's offside. So it's, again, either the clubs go, by looking at it, he looks onside, we carry on and say that is onside, or they go, no, we carry on with what they're doing at the minute, and they do take that extra minute to draw the lines and get the actually correct result. Either way, I'm for it both. You either look at the rule currently as it is, or you change it to the exact measurement. But again, it just needs to be used a bit more. We haven't got any sort of recent analogies, recent mistakes or anything it's made, because we've not had any football for quite some time. But there's definitely been some where it should have stepped in or could have stepped in to help the referee, and hasn't. And that's
VAR. That's human error. That's nothing to do with VAR. The VAR is a technology. It can't choose when it's turned on or not. I think that's human error.
Yeah, it is. It's the other refs in there that decide to, either they can't decide between them, and so they go, ref, we upstand with your decision you made. But again, that's why they should go. There's potentially an issue there. Go and look at it yourself and see what you think. That way, the ref still has the ultimate control. He makes the decision. Because again, there are refs from newer refs or sort of lower badged refs that have to make a decision in that VAR room to ultimately go against and question a ref that's probably been there a lot longer than them and has been doing it a lot longer. So they're going to question themselves by questioning Mike Dean or whoever, if that makes sense.
Yeah. What if the whole process was similar to, say, something like cricket, where there's a review system? So say there's a review system, VAR does not interfere in the game whatsoever, unless a team is unhappy about a decision, and either the captain has the final call and they have a certain number of reviews, or maybe it's the manager. Thoughts on that?
No, that's dumb.
Why?
It's just, no, this isn't cricket.
No, but why would it be a bad idea?
Because I just think then so what is your idea, that the bench can see it, or it's just done off guesswork?
Well, if a team is unhappy about a decision, or so say if the referee awards a penalty for a foul and they think, and the team that's given away the penalty thinks, no, we got the ball there, and they have a review, goes to VAR checks it. Oh, actually, the defender did get the ball, overturns the penalty.
Because you'd have people cheating, I think. Say if you had 3 reviews per half or whatever, I think what would happen is when a team's used up all of their reviews, if I was like on the opposition team and I knew that the other team had used up all of their reviews, it means you can be rougher, and as long as you're a bit sly about it, you're not going to get caught. I mean, what happens if something happens off the ball behind a referee's thing, but they don't have any reviews?
You wouldn't necessarily have to run out of reviews.
Yeah, but then you just have, say if you were winning, I'd waste time. I'd be like, I'll review that, I'll review that, I'll review that, I'll review that, I'll review that as well, to waste time, slow down the clock. Actually, an interesting thing about VAR, and I want to get your guys' opinion on it, is it's to do with clear opportunities, isn't it? What happens if a corner goes off the wrong person? VAR isn't used for that, but that corner leads to a goal. What happens then? Because that goal will stand, even if it comes off the striker or whoever's Do you think that's right, or do you think that should be changed as well because it leads to a goal scoring opportunity?
Again, I think that is it's that defining dumbing down of VAR of how it's used. I think at the minute, corners get given wrongly, so do throw-ins. Like that's football. I'm not going to be one to say that we should have VAR to look at corners as well, because that's just it's painstaking. You just defend the corner. But it's that bit is if it leads to something. Like there was one when Southampton played Liverpool, Saints were fouled in the box. Liverpool broke and then scored. It's that bit again that you've got to then overrule a goal.
But then with the Bournemouth match recently, was it against Burnley? Didn't that exact thing happen?
And they that was a horrendous match for VAR.
Oh, they scored and it was a handball, was a penalty of the other team, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then they went straight back and then Burnley scored.
That was a match, wasn't it? That was like the showpiece for VAR.
Yeah, that wasn't a good piece for them.
But then again, it came to the right decision, didn't it?
It did. It just
like what are they supposed to do? Ignore the clear handball because they've scored? Like again, that's not VAR's fault. That's whoever they should have seen quicker before they put it in the back of the net.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's the issue with it. It's coming to the decisions quicker so that doesn't lead to that. Again, VAR came to the right decision, so that's technically not wrong. It's just the way that they used the VAR in that scenario made VAR look bad, where it didn't. That came to the right decision. It was the refs taking too long about it and not going, hang on, stop the play, that is a foul. Because they let the play carry on until it stops and then they review it. Whereas it should be, we review it straight away. And you can't stop the match, obviously, because if that wasn't a foul, they scored, that's fair. Like that that's the play of the game. It's literally finding that balance of how they work it. And whether they sit and literally go to the chiefs of Bundesliga and go, right, how does it work here? Because there's not really any complaint in the Bundesliga. It works in the Bundesliga. It comes to the right decision. It overturns. It's made 5 more overturned decisions in 18 less games. It's it overturned 11 pens so far this season. We've done, Premier League's had 0.
How bad are their referees? Maybe that's more the question.
Well, okay, potentially. These cars are bad.
Yeah, exactly. 11, Jesus.
But again, it comes to the right decision. Like I think with Matt's point about do we do it a cricket way? You would just, if you wanted to, review something, who makes a decision of whether the ref's wrong again?
I think that review thing wouldn't work. I think football's too tactical. I think people would use it to waste time, or they do it to get away with stuff or not to get away with stuff. I think football's a bit too conniving, I think, at times for that, because I'd use it for the wrong reasons. If I knew a team wasted it, I'd do something.
Spurs will win in the league with Mourinho under Mourinho should work out how to go around working around VAR. There'll be anything that comes in, teams will work a way of using it to their advantage, and 100% I would do that as well.
Yeah, so I just think to conclude, I think everyone or most people like VAR. I just think it's the rules and the human error that's the problem. I think if we work on that, I think VAR. I think we'll all grow to love VAR, because I don't love it, but I respect the need for it, because I think there is a need for it in football in every league. And I think as long as the human error is sorted out, the rules are sorted out, and they unify it, so every league and every Champions League has the same set of rules. I think VAR is going to become an integral part of football sooner rather than later, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
I completely agree.
My minds can be changed, but right now I wouldn't have it. It can be changed. I can be swayed, but as it is now, I would go back to good old days. No VAR.
No, I think again, like we said, how many leagues have it? We were actually one, obviously, quite late to put it in. Admittedly, maybe we should have done some research a bit more and tried it out first. Okay, it's not happened, but I think it is literally just this season when it concludes, if it concludes, we work out where the issues were with it, what people liked, what they didn't like, and where we can refine it and make it much clearer, so that next season, and there's still going to be mistakes. Like you can't say that next season it's going to be completely flush and everything's going to be amazing by it, because it's football, it doesn't happen like that. But if we can minimise it and make it just fairer in general for everyone, and come to the correct decisions, you can't really complain about it because it's doing what is right.
Yeah, I agree. I don't really have anything else to add. Davey?
No.
Cool.
No, I mean,
should we wrap up?
I can be swayed, but it's not for me at the minute.
Fair play. I mean, I'm out. So, yeah. Should we wrap it up, lad?
Thanks for having me.
All right. Cheers for watching, everyone. If you're still watching, if you are, fair play. I guess we'll be back with another one soon. Yeah. Stay safe.